Alrighty guys, welcome back. It's another day. Last time we got those stringers glued in. They look really nice. I'm really happy. So now the next thing we're doing today is we're going to be cutting out our bulkhead pieces that go to the sides of it to help support the deck. So there, all the way across to there, and then one on that side. And then here at the back, one that goes there on that side, and one on that side. And then also kind of have one that's for the motor mount here. Now it doesn't go straight across, it divots in a little bit. And I have a picture of that, so I remembered with some of the measurements. So I'll be able to get that just right. And you can tell it's wider than just a piece of plywood sticking up. That's actually going to be like a 2x4 width. So I'm going to start out by getting the measurements for these. I think I'm going to do this whole side first, get the measurements, cut the pieces out, see how they fit, and then before I measure this side, I'm going to see if the pieces from this side fit on this side. And if they do, that'll be awesome, because then I can just trace them out and cut them without having to do another set of measuring. If they don't, need a little bit of adjusting, I can probably still just adjust them off of the measurements from that side. So let's go ahead and get to it. Well, that first template was not quite the right size over there, but good enough to fit. Then over here, it was even more so not quite the right size. You can see I need to make it a little bit longer and also a little bit deeper at this end. So I'm actually gonna try to go back to the foam and cut some pieces out of that to see if it does any better. Maybe that'll make it easier. Well, I'm sure you can tell it's nighttime. This stuff always seems to take a little longer than I plan on it taking, but we got all those little bulkhead pieces cut out for the sides. The one there, the one there, and then here, and here, and then on the other side as well. And I've got to say, I've got it, you can tell that's kind of like the level for the deck right there. You can see how nice and flat it is with those pieces. Now those pieces aren't necessarily flat against the hole, but that's okay. We're going to fill all of that in with peanut butter, which is how we're going to glue them down. Which brings me to the next step, is I'm just going to go ahead and glue those pieces in. And what am I going to glue them in with? Peanut butter. Now if you guys don't know what peanut butter is, it's really just thickened resin. So I've got my big can of resin over there. I mix up with some fumed silica is what thickens it up. So then it's almost like a peanut butter consistency. And that's how I installed these stringers. So if y'all haven't watched that video, you can go watch that to see how I'm going to do that. Or rather see how I did do that, but I'm basically going to use the same process to glue in all of these pieces now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll check back in. Alrighty, we got them in there. The bulkheads are glued down. Took about 45 minutes, give or take. There they are. Turned out pretty good. I tried to do my best to sort of smooth it out so that way whenever we're fiberglassing over it, it'll go down nice and easy with the fewest amount of air bubbles. Not perfect. Some of them are better than others. Like this one was really good. I mean, you could tell how smooth I got it. It's pretty slick. This one was the worst because this was the last one I did with the first batch of peanut butter. So it was starting to harden up. And that's what happens. It starts clumping on you. It doesn't look very pretty. But it's okay. And then this was the second batch I mixed up. It's still drying. You can see it's more wet. Pretty happy. Now we do still have to do the bulkheads that go across the middle. So there's one here. Long story, but this is one of the areas where I think the wood started rotting first. Is because they had it come through here, a bulkhead that came straight across like, I don't have a good example right here, but so the piece of plywood in here covering this whole area, but then it had an opening in the middle because this is the ski locker, so of course you want your skis to be able to go through there, so it had a hole in it, but it wasn't waterproofed very well, and I'm sure the skis just kept, you know, banging it, scraping it to where wood was exposed, and then water got in there and just started rotting through from there to there, all the way over. It didn't take long. So what I'm going to do instead is something similar to what they did with the gas tank, which is instead of having a bulkhead in the middle, because this is a pretty wide span, they did a 2x4 across, kind of like that. So I'll do the same kind of thing up here. So the 2x4 will be up in the air like that, still leaving enough space underneath for the skis and whatnot. So that's the progress we're making on gluing in bulkheads right now. Since it is getting late, I'm gonna wrap it up today, but I'll come back tomorrow and we'll finish cutting out the bulkheads for the front. And then we'll wait on that one because we're doing it different. And then the one that goes right here. And also the one that goes right here. But that one's also different. So, I will see you tomorrow. Alright, it is the next day. So it's time for us to get back to it. Time to start making measurements. Cutting out those next bulkheads. Now before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to go ahead and put the gas tank back in this area just to see how tight the fit is going to be between the bulkhead on this side and the one on this side. Alright, as you can see, it fits in there nicely. Man, let me tell you, it almost makes me think I'm putting the boat back together today. Which we're not going to get it all done today, but we are going to make progress. You can see there's a little bit of space there. And then I'm also kind of figuring out sort of how much of a gap there is at the bottom, because I am going to build a little deck that goes straight across there to support it. And then underneath that, we're going to have a PVC pipe that goes through. Here on the other side, you can kind of see we've got that little gap there as well. So it is indeed a tight squeeze, but I think we're going to have enough space to do everything. It's kind of interesting what I'm thinking about. This actually simulates the height of the deck, because I've got these pieces here are the height of the caps, and then this will be as if the deck was there. So it'll kind of be cut out around this, or the deck will just come back to here, and then it'll go all the way back on the side and not back past this point. Thinking that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I've also gone ahead and determined the height I'm gonna need to make the deck underneath this bottom part. And at the peak of the bottom here, or the trough I should say, I put 1, 2, 3 pieces of the 3/4 inch plywood, and that seems to give the right thickness that I need. So that's what I'm gonna try to make the height of the deck I build underneath the tank, and I'll just use that as a guide. I think that's it that I need from the tank in terms of measurements right now. I'll go ahead and take the tank back out, and then I'll go back to making the bulkheads. Alrighty, I got my measurements. Now it's time to go and cut it out. Well, we almost got it. You can see here it's just sticking up a little bit, and it's got room to go down at the bottom, but it's getting caught up at that top edge there. So what I need to do is shave it back just a little bit, so then it'll be able to fold in there a little nicer. Other than that, it's a pretty good fit. A little bit of voids there, but we're just gonna fill it in with peanut butter, so looks pretty good. Alright, now you can see we've got it perfect. It's lined up just how it needs to be with the top on both sides. Then I also went ahead and I got the little water drain pipe hole cut out of the bottom. So when I glue this one in, I'll go ahead and I'll put that PVC pipe all the way from there to where this next one will be. I am going to go ahead and do a quick coat of resin over this as a preliminary waterproofing, just to be extra safe. Hopefully shouldn't need it, but I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Sometimes there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves, there's no one I can turn to.
Alright, we finished putting the resin on that bulkhead piece, and it's still a little bit tacky, but it's mostly dried. One thing I do want to point out, you notice I did end up cutting this piece instead of going the full length, because water could still get under here from the back of the gas tank, because where those hoses come out, the deck can't cover it because the hoses come out above the deck. So if water's running back where that deck ends, it could go down into this gas tank area. So by having the piece cut up there and the other piece will be cut down here, if water does leak down into the bottom of it, it'll be able to drain down and into the pipe at this end to drain out. So that's why I made that decision, but we are good to go ahead and start putting the peanut butter on that bad boy. So that's what I'm gonna do now and get it glued in. Alright, we got it in there, guys. It is glued in with the peanut butter. Let me tell you, I did a pretty good job on this one. Most of the edges are pretty well smoothed out. So we did this one. I still need to do the one that goes up at the front right there. You can kind of see it. And then I still need to do this piece. Then after that, we are done with bulkheads. So for this one, because this is really where the engine mounts to, and it's actually wider, I think I'm going to use a piece of my 4x4 to make that. And then I'll just carve out the shape that it needs. I think I'm going to do that front piece first. So that's what I'll measure next. Well, it's getting late again, so I think I'm just going to have to call it a night and pick up where I left off tomorrow. I'll see you then. And we are back. It is the next day, and I've got my measurements for this front bulkhead here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my wood out and then get to cutting.
And I know all the feelings that we shared are in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Alright, we got the bulkhead cut out. Fits into place pretty nicely. You can see there's a little bit of an air gap on that side, but I cut out this little piece to help fill that gap when we're putting the peanut butter in. Doesn't help it that much, but helps a little bit. But before I'm gonna glue that one in, I am gonna do a little bit of grinding first. You can see right here where the old stringers went, there's a little bit of a lip there. I'm gonna grind that lip down so that way when we're fiberglassing over this, it'll be nice and smooth. Alright, we finished getting our grinding done. Boy, let me tell you, I do not miss all the fiberglass dust that the grinding kicks up. But what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and do a coat of resin over this bulkhead to get it waterproofed a little bit before we get it in the boat. Alright, the resin has finished drying on this bad boy, so let's go ahead and put it in the boat. Alright, we finished getting it glued in with the peanut butter. It's still drying, but turned out pretty good. Got it nice and perfectly level with the two sides of the stringer there. So I couldn't be happier with that. Now that that's done, the only bulkhead piece left is this one back here. So I gotta take the measurements for that next. Let's get to it. Well, let me tell you guys, this piece right here was a booger. Man, took some time cutting it out. It's not as easy as the other stuff like cutting out the plywood, because you can just cut this with a jigsaw. Jigsaw doesn't cut deep enough to go through the 4x4, so I did all of that with the miter saw, actually, or arm saw. So we got it cut there, and I had to get it to where it's the right height here. And you can see I've got my PVC pipe in place. There was going to be a bit of a gap underneath it, and I was trying to think of a lot of different ways I was going to deal with that. And so here's sort of what I ended up doing, is I cut some little wedges or triangles out of that plywood, and that sort of fills the gap, and I'll fill all that in with peanut butter and whatnot, but that'll help sort of keep all that together in there. And then you can see here we've got it nice and level, just how we want it. So now let's go ahead and get this piece installed. Alright, we got that piece glued in there. Turned out pretty good. So now the next piece I'm going to do is actually going to be more of a bulkhead piece that'll come up. It'll actually only come out to about here, and then it'll go down and curve a little bit, then come back up. And the reason why is because it needs space for those hoses in the gas tank coming off through here. So we gotta curve out a divot for that. Well, I gotta say, it's nice whenever the piece fits into place pretty well on the first try, and that one there turned out pretty good. One last thing I'm going to check on it though is with the gas tank in, seeing where I need to cut out a groove for where those hoses come out. Alright, so we're gonna have to cut this probably from about here over to about there. And then it should fit just right. And voila, just like that. It's perfect. Just how it needs to be now. Now the only thing left to do is glue it in. It is glued in just like that. Pretty nice. Now we just gotta let it dry. And I think I'm gonna call it a night. And that is where we're going to end today's episode, guys. I want to say thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a thumbs up. And stay tuned, because in the next video, what we're going to be doing is finishing up those stringers. Well, kind of. We're going to be capping the stringers and then finishing the engine mount bulkhead area in the back. So stay tuned for that. I think that's it for today. So until next time, goodbye. I almost forgot to give a huge shout out to 110 subscribers. You guys are awesome.